Hi, I'm Bruce Bolger. I'm founder of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance, and this show about engagement technology essentials is designed for anybody in management who has to make a decision related to implementing a digital solution to your employee engagement. And we're lucky to have four different people, management at different types of companies with different solutions related to the digitalization of the marketplace. And they are starting with Joe Keller. He's president of enterprise engagement for Augeo, which is probably one of the top five full service engagement solutions companies in the United States. Rob Purdy, he's founder and CEO of CarltonOne Engagement, which offers a complete suite of enterprise engagement technologies, including Evergrow, a brand new product for the SMB, small medium business marketplace, and Power to Motivate for enterprises. And Bob Randall, he's CEO of Transcend Engagement. His company also offers engagement technologies with a special spin toward professional development. So we're here today to really get a perspective on what an executive needs to know about what enterprise engagement technology is. And this program is sponsored by the Brand Media Coalition, which includes many brands and leading master fulfillment companies whose support we always appreciate. So, Joe, I'm going to start with you. You position your company as an enterprise engagement technology, or I should say, an enterprise engagement company that has an enterprise engagement technology that I believe is the first to be ISO 10018 certified. So tell me, how does technology support engagement? And then I'm going to ask all of you the question, what is enterprise engagement technology and how does it differ from, Slack and Teams and what people tend to get confused with about engagement technology?
So thank you, Bruce. I think the way that we see enterprise engagement technology is an enabler more than anything else. And so the way that maybe just take a step back on how we approach different opportunities is we'll sit down with our clients and talk through exactly what the overall goals are of their engagement program. So we'll have the consulting and the consulting services and professional services around that to try to identify what are the desired behaviors, what are the current behaviors, what are the desired behaviors in their enterprise, and how can we help them close that gap. We use Encore, which is our proprietary technology, the ISO 10018 certified technology that you referenced, Bruce, as the technology that sits at the base of our solution. And when you marry the technology up with the professional services is when you get the ultimate solution that we bring to the marketplace.
Thank you. Rob, I think there's a tremendous amount of confusion in the market. Your technology integrates with Salesforce, Teams, ADP, I believe, shortly. But companies, CEOs, CFOs, even HR people don't understand the difference between engagement technology and Slack and Teams. Can you kind of explain this category of technology?
Yeah, I mean, these are more office automation technologies. So, Slack is a great tool for sharing work amongst different people within the organization. You can post work, you can progress, you can communicate internally. Teams, again, is more of a conferencing tool. So when you look at those products, they're great office automation products. They've really improved in the world of a pandemic world. They've been, really booming in terms of, again, offering up great services to companies. Engagement technologies really layer within those solutions because what we look for is delivery engines where we can reach, again, companies, whether they're small, medium, or large. So we look at Slack, we look at Teams as an opportunity to bring our product into those enterprises. And by doing that, we're able to connect to large numbers of people. We do it pretty efficiently. We get all of the updates done automatically around who the members are within those programs. And so that makes accessibility for our products much more efficient.
So, Bob, thank you for that, Rob. Bob, one of the things that's interesting is that Joe he didn't start with technology in his response. He started with program design. And it seems to me that no technology is going to be any better than the program design that goes into it. What is the relationship between technology and actually designing an engagement strategy?
Yeah, what Joe talked about is exactly on point, which we call a backwards design. So we start with the outcomes we're looking for, and then we leverage the technology and the training and development of the frontline managers and the other people involved in bringing those solutions to bear to make sure that it's being implemented, and then also that it's being measured as well. So we are very big on getting an ROI. So we know that what we're actually doing is working. So I would say that those are the key points to make a whole engagement solution actually work.
And Joe, I think there's not only is there confusion between understanding an enterprise engagement technology versus, say, a Qualtrics, which is, a very well-known brand for employee assessment, but it's not an enterprise engagement technology. So what is the difference? What are the features on an enterprise engagement technology such that, you were able to get a 10,018 certification?
Well, I think the main thing, when you're looking at that, in the certification process, you have to be able to engage 5 different audiences. The employee, channel, customer, supplier, and community. So you have to have the ability to not necessarily just be siloed into one area. You have to have the ability to cut across the entire enterprise, addressing these 5 different audiences, trying to understand what their, again, as I mentioned before, what the desired behaviors are in those different audiences, what are their current behaviors, and how do you help close that gap and measure that the closure. And those are the 5 different audiences that we address.
And then, Rob, from the standpoint of tactics, it seems to me, and Bob, I'm going to get to you on this too, because you're an organizational psychologist by training and partly by profession. Rob, you offer not just incentives. I know you have a incredible 10 million products, I believe, on your reward platform, but the front end portion, you address, I believe, all of the different types of levers of engagement. Obviously, the audiences are critical, but isn't one of the powers being able to combine learning, communications, assessment? Tell me about how an enterprise engagement platform addresses different levers of engagement.
Yeah, sure. I mean, our platform uses the term multi-experience, and really by that, what we mean is that we bring together a whole, array of different experiences. You talked about wellness. There's a wellness application built in. There's savings and benefits platforms built into the same tool. Standardized recognition tools are in there. Sales engagement tools are in there, and customer engagement tools are built in as well. So effectively, anybody using our platform can address any stakeholder group, whether internal or external, segregate all the outbound communications to specific user groups, and in control and design all of the outbound communications, precisely to what you want to deliver as a message. Multi-experience to us is a never-ending development curve. Effectively, we view it as more of a human capital management approach. We're really trying to build in all of the tools so that so our customers don't have to go out and license multiple products and pay multiple license fees. They can, through one simple license, deliver a multitude of product benefits to the company.
And then, of course, you can have a single sign-on with Teams or any of the platforms they might be using.
Exactly. Yep. You can integrate that so it does the data automation piece really efficiently. And that also eliminates an SSO requirement at the front end, which speeds up the product launch cycle as well.
So, Bob, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this program is that you address the professional development area. So, as I understand it, using your technology, I can use surveys, I can communicate, send out news. I believe you have a learning capability as well, although correct me if I'm wrong. And what I find intriguing is your professional development component. First, correct me if I'm wrong, that these are the types of different things you can put on a single platform. And then secondly, explain how that professional development element works, or that, I should say, that leadership development component.
Sure. Yeah, well, we know that the frontline manager is, as Gallup says, it's 70% of the employee's engagement in many cases. And so the relationship with your boss is paramount. If you have a poor relationship with your boss, all the other stuff that we're doing typically cannot cover that up. And so we really start with helping the frontline managers have the tools at their disposal, using technology as well as other human touch elements with development to help make those things happen for their own development, but also for them to better connect with their own employees, especially in this digital world. We know that people were working from home in higher numbers before the pandemic, and certainly at much higher numbers now. And so to have that digital technology at your fingertips for, reminding you to, reach out to an employee during a key milestone date. Also getting feedback from the employee. How am I doing? And doing that on an ongoing basis. And then also giving the company the tools to help structure those employee check-in meetings between the manager and their employee can be very helpful too. So now there's a digital record of the employee and the manager meeting with each other, and the company is helping kind of direct those conversations as well. And again, that feeds back into that measurement piece that I mentioned earlier.
Well, that's a good segue to Joe on the question I was going to bring up about measurement. Joe, you and I have both been in this business for many, many years. And we both know that a lot of these programs over the years haven't been mentioned. And I know you have top organizational clients. So, and many of them may perhaps do rigorous measurement, but in the past, many companies haven't. Do you think we're seeing more focus on data now, that more companies are really interested in? Joe, tell us give us some trend lines here. Correlate, how are people engaging in our training programs and our meeting programs? How does that correlate to their retention or willingness to recommend? What kind of shift are you seeing in analytics and desire for prescriptive analytics, if any?
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that the interest and attention on data and the analytics of it is probably higher than it's ever been. And I think that as it relates to engagement, enterprise engagement, depending if you're looking at, it's one thing if you're looking at data analytics around a sales channel program, for example, versus an employee program. You can, it's generally, you can measure things a little bit differently, but there's no doubt that the attention on that is higher than ever. I will also say that, you're looking at additional data sets that become available. So for example, if you take your own program and say, I've got historic data, I've got current data, which I want to try to use to, forecast or predict some sort of future behavior. You also now have the ability to ingest information from other data sources that you can, factor into your analytics to try to help drive the prediction, a finer prediction of future behavior. So yes, it's at an all-time high, and I think there's not a single way to do it. It's probably an accumulation of a lot of different methods.
And analytics, Rob, I know is important to you. What sort of, and also on your reward platform side, so how are you using analytics or artificial intelligence? How can they factor in to providing organizations useful information that they can use, as Joe said, to make decisions going forward? Because that's the real benefit. It's great to know what happened, but I now want to know, how can I use what happened to make a better user experience or to encourage the right behaviors? How can technology or artificial intelligence be used to enhance the level of engagement in the technology?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, the data that we generate as an organization, and all of the organizations on the call, it really is liquid gold. The insights that we get are phenomenal, and I would go back to your earlier comment, Bruce, where you talked about the fact that we didn't historically, as an industry, use this data particularly well, but we're now learning that what we gather is phenomenally valuable. So, we are using artificial intelligence, for example, to do, personalized shopping recommendations, where again, our members will browse a rewards gallery, will start to gather up some information around what it is that they like, what are they searching for, what are they trying to strive for. They might fill out a form around, what they're aspiring to use their points for down the road, once they've earned enough to get to that threshold. All that information we use to feed back to them, roadmaps and ways to get there more quickly. It helps to drive program engagement and activity with the members. And also, when we also look at the actual behavior of what people are buying, for example, in a channel program, we're running an agri program internationally right now, and we're using that data to marry up prescriptive recommendations around products that will marry in with the current feedstock that someone's using, or the current pesticide control that they're using, or whatever they're doing in their fields. That type of information then gets to be married up, and in our outbound marketing, we're able to connect the right products and services for them. So effectively doing more prescriptive recommendations based on the purchase data that we get.
And I love that analogy of liquid gold, Bob, because you being an organizational psychologist, I think that 50% of CEOs are driving with one eye on the road, and maybe more, because they are not correlating human capital data that is relevant to EBITDA, to earnings. What do you see as the frontier for using data? Even, for instance, for diversity, equity, inclusion data. With the technology of all three of your companies, I can see the level of engagement in all the different programs that's being done. I can see, if I have the data in, if I know how they describe themselves from a gender point of view, ethnicity, race. So where are we in the use of data to really drive performance? And how can companies like all three of yours help companies create actionable data?
Yeah, I would say the DEI is a great example. Where in the past, I would say we would have DEI experts come into the organization, do some kind of training, then they would leave. Maybe there would be a survey before and after. But now we can actually use the demographic data and know, are we attracting the right people into the interview pool? How are we doing with retention? How are we doing with ongoing feedback between people from different backgrounds? And what do we think about the culture? And becomes an ongoing process that gets measured on a regular basis. So when we talk about culture shift, we can feel it, but we can also measure it. Those are some of the key factors. And that can be done in different realms too, with other types of culture shifts that you're looking for, or going through the customer channels that Rob and Joe had talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. In your case, Joe, as being an enterprise engagement agency that can help connect the correlation between customers and employees, where do you think organizations are on the learning skill of integrating these audiences, and can technology facilitate that?
Yeah, I think it's the answer, kind of dovetailing on the previous question as well. I think in general, as an industry, we've done a great job of explaining to our clients, for the most part, what happened, and what the transformation that's going on right now is going from what's happened to what's happening and what's going to happen. And where are we in that? I would say, as an industry, we're in the top half of the first inning, and I think people are starting to circle it. They're understanding it. They know intuitively there's a ton of value in there, and what we're doing is starting to see certain examples where you're unlocking that value, but also knowing that there's just so much more there that needs to be mined, if you will, in terms of its value. So I think we're at the very front end. I think there's no doubt about it. In the coming months and years, there's going to be a tremendous amount of value coming
Rob, you've been at the forefront, and your technologies, and I think all three of your companies' technologies support this growing concept called environmental social governance, sometimes known as ESG, or increasingly stakeholder capitalism, the whole idea of creating wealth for shareholders by creating value for customers, employees, supply chain, and distribution partners and communities. How can technologies like yours actually support ESG? I believe yours kind of covers both the E and the S, the environmental and the social. But could you explain that? And I'm going to give Bob and Joe an opportunity to answer that as well.
Yeah, that's great. We started building a program 18 months ago called Evergrow. Evergrow is our sustainability initiative. It basically bisects all the products. There's an Evergrow component built into the reward platform and all of our front end platforms. And with effectively what we've done is created a transactional model. So as things happen within our platform, we then fund the planting of trees. We also are embarking on other environmental initiatives around ocean protection, so protecting sea kelp and seagrasses, as well as funding the river systems, where we're helping to fund a barge that actually pulls plastic out of rivers across Europe and Asia. And so these types of funding initiatives we're driving through our platform, and we're tying them back into the initiatives that our members undertake. So if they complete a wellness initiative, they're helping to fund trees. If they earned a special badge and gain a sales achievement, we're planting additional trees, or we're funding eco plastic reduction somewhere in the world. So these types of activities, we're trying to connect people to a different outcome, more of a purpose outcome, where that sense of purpose kind of rises above the platform, it rises above the company. And really, for us, it's really that march to try and make the work effort mean more to the individual. And so that's really the march that we've been on for the last year and a half. And it's a really exciting march. And we're starting to see now we're up to, I think, funded 6.4 million trees. We will, by the end of 22, be funding annually over 100 million trees a year. That's our goal.
I'm already breathing easier, Rob. And I know you've been doing a lot of work in Mozambique, I believe, is one of the.
We're working in 6 countries with a company called Eden Reforestation out of Southern California. Great company, and they're our partner in this process.
And Bob, these technologies also support the S, the social of ESG, don't they? Could you explain a little bit how these technologies can play into the whole role of what Bob called human capital management, in terms of engaging employees in a more holistic way, or all stakeholders, as Joe correctly stated?
Yeah, I think we're coming at it, in the past. I think the industry obviously was focused on selling goods and gifts and that type of thing. But how do we help our clients create a more humanistic environment? And I talked about culture earlier, and there's a lot of work being done around culture. Not only are companies putting a lot of effort into attracting talent, but how do you keep and engage the talent that you have? And by using these technologies, again, by creating what we call a feedback culture within the organization, you can help upper management better understand the humanistic aspect and the social environment that their employees are operating in, and then also pinpoint and identify areas that may be red flags and need improvement. And then also help them with the overall goal on where are we trying to go. I think Joe mentioned that earlier. How do we predict and know where we want to be in a year, in 2 years? And are we actually on track for that? And by using the measurement and technology systems in place, we'll know whether we're going in the right direction or not, or if we have to course correct for that.
So, Joe, do you think that this whole ESG concept is, and also married with this whole need, with workers forever now, never going to be working quite the same way as they did before? Do you think that's going to spur the growth of engagement technologies? I hypothesis, you answer my question. I think we're at about the bottom half of the first inning in terms of the use of engagement technologies. if you were if you were to say that, CRM is in the ninth inning, or they're not, I would say the CRM is probably in the sixth inning. Would you say that employing or engagement technologies are also in the first inning? And do you think that this is going to change rapidly, or do you think it's going to continue to be a slow process?
Okay. Lots of questions there. Let me try to unpack a couple of them. I think that what's unique today more than anything is you think about it from the standpoint of human capital management in general, or social good causes, and in particular things like that. Really been around for a long time. I mean, we've had social good in our catalogs for years, and I think that whether it's vision, glasses, water, recycling, community building, all those kinds of things have been in part of our programs for years and years and years. I think the what's new today is the awareness around it, and in that respect, I think it's similar to a lot of the other stuff that's happening in terms of the business roundtable and the purpose of the corporation and all that, and how we look at employees and value them in terms of the human capital management and so forth. So I think it's always been there. Companies who have been successful have always done elements of this. I think the awareness is more than it's ever been. And the awareness then is driving other companies to kind of bring it up as well and think about it, and probably more than anything else, just being more intentional and leaning into how they move forward. I think it's elements of this have been around for a long time.
Rob, are you anticipating, could we be on a hockey stick? I know you're a Canadian, with engagement technologies.
Well, we definitely are. I think I think that the technologies have improved immensely, and they need to continue that improvement curve. We need to make them, I think, much easier to implement, much easier to use. You go back and talk about Slack. I mean, one of the best things about that product is its simplicity. And I think our world of technology and engagement, we've created a tremendous amount of complexity. So, if we can get rid of some of those barriers and make our products more seamless, much more intuitive, use the artificial intelligence, use our data wisely to create more prescriptive, more immediate notification-based drivers, then you're going to see the technology mushroom very quickly. And I think that's the end game. Certainly in our world, that's what we're working towards, is to make that automation work for us and work for our clients to drive their businesses.
So we're getting toward the conclusion here. The two questions, the first one of them quick for each of you. Bob, business models, in CRM, the business model is per seat. Without giving, sharing your pricing, what's the business model of a company like yours? Is it per seat, just a general, what should a CEO, CFO expect to see in a business model that includes professional services?
Yeah, for our approach, it's a little bit different than per seat. We kind of do it in tiers. So we have kind of a small business tier, medium, and it kind of goes up the scale. The reason for that is, employment levels change so much from one employer to the next. So if you're going to do it per seat, you're going to be sending typically a different invoice every month to the client. So we try to do it in tiers, and we try to kind of look at the holistic package, and we try to think about it in terms of the long term as well.
And the rewards, are they paid for separately, or are they part of the program?
They're typically paid for separately. When the client, or when the employee or the customer redeems their reward, then the client will get an invoice that, and we try to peg that to MSRP, so they're not overpaying.
So, what kind of business models, again, without getting in any particulars, what type of approach? CRM, Salesforce, we all know it, $75 a seat on up, plus, you pay for any implementation.
Yeah, I mean, our business model is basically made up of three components. One is there's typically an investment made up front to build the platform out for the client, to build it to their brand standards and the features and functionalities that they're looking for. So that's a one-time investment. There's typically also a monthly maintenance to ingest data and make sure that the data is loaded properly, et cetera, do the testing of that, quality assurance. And then the final component is the redemption of the points.
Rob, what should companies expect from a company like yours in terms of the overall business model? I know you have products.
Yeah, we're really on a per seat basis for the most part. Enterprise clients generally will sort of extrapolate that out into a flat fee. So what Bob was saying earlier, it's going to be sort of a flat fee that would include all the ups and downs in terms of, employee shift. But smaller SMB customers are quite used to the per seat model, and we've set that up in an automated manner where, again, it's billed and paid in an automated way on their credit card or through bank payment automation tools as well. So it's very easy and seamless. In an SMB model, we pre-bill the activity around the points being issued, but we also roll anything that's if there's any breakage where an employee is left, those points roll back into a bucket for the enterprise to then reallocate. So they get to use all their funds with just a very simplified billing model.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. So we're going to wrap up now. And I'm just going to come back here quickly to my screen to share with any of you the information resources that are provided by the Enterprise Engagement Alliance. All of these are free services, or most of them. And I want to thank you, three speakers, for giving us your insights. And I'll sum it up quickly. The essential thing here is that when you're buying technology, it all starts with the program first. I think we've heard from all three speakers in different ways that you can have the best technology on earth, but if you don't design a program that makes sense, you're going to have trouble. Number two, usability, a critical factor. And this has got to be something that people engage in. Understand the difference between enterprise engagement technology and engagement technology from survey technologies like Qualtrics, or office productivity technologies like Slack. These are technologies that you can have an assessment survey, you can have learning, you can have communications, you can have rewards, you can have recognition. So this is a whole new category. I think we've heard that this is still early stage. This is not Salesforce. This is not yet CRM or customer relationship management. This is finally these platforms can support ESG. We've heard about a platform that actually directly people can get trees planted based on their efforts. Others where they can redeem points for social causes, for charities. And also it supports human capital reporting. And finally, the key is measurement. Getting analytics that you can use, not just to know where you were, not just to know where you are, but to know where you're going. And there are no technologies out there that can provide more prescriptive analytics, I believe, than technologies that give you assessment data, that give you retention data, that give you recognition data, that give you learning data, all in one place. This is the way to break down the silos that stand in the way of organizations and effective performance of people. So Bob Randall, CEO of Transcend Engagement, Joe Keller, CEO of Augeo Enterprise Engagement, Rob Purdy, founder and CEO of CarltonOne. Gentlemen, thank you very much today. And we'll be sharing this video throughout the next year because this is a terrific overview of everything you need to know about enterprise engagement technology in about 35 minutes. Thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.